Time, the way we're using it with past, present, future, that's a human construct. But it's a very good one. It simplifies things for our human brain and psyche and ego to understand it that way. But it's simply a human construct. That's what reality is. But really, what I believe is happening is time is continuous. It's more of a loop than a line, and it's quantum. So everything is happening in the now.
Can you imagine having an out-of-body experience? What happens when the world you see is far beyond what science or your five senses can explain? Welcome to episode 3 of the Spiritual Code Podcast. I'm Ben Choi, and I'll be your guide as we continue our journey of spiritual growth and self-discovery. In today's episode, we'll be joined by an accomplished spiritual healer who successfully bridged the gap between the boardroom and the spiritual realm. After 2 profound near-death experiences shatter her understanding of reality, she left her fast-paced career in healthcare business development to help heal others in regression therapy. She's here now to apply her analytical mind and profound insights to illuminate a perspective we may have never thought possible. Now let's connect with Wendy Rose Williams.
Well, hello, I'm Wendy Rose Williams, and I'm a past life energy healer. And I help people release pain, anxiety, depression, whatever that stuck energy is that's getting in the way of feeling happy, feeling healthy, feeling that your life's got a wonderful purpose. And how I got on this path was very surprising to me. And it came in two pieces. The first was I had 2 NDEs while pregnant with my youngest daughter in August of 1997. And then the second wave was I was introduced to Michael Newton's Journey of Souls, that amazing book that got into all the detail of the many, many patients he'd seen during his career. And it was introduced to me by a soulmate. And I believe soulmates are those that we travel with multiple times and recognize often. And he had the soul contract, the agreement that we make before we come in of what we're going to work on, to wake me up spiritually. So that really took off in 2010. And that's what got me on my path to train over time and become a past life regressionist. Had the pleasure of training with Dr. Brian Weiss, amongst others, became a Reiki master, energy healer, and channel, and everything just went from there.
Wendy's near-death experiences.
I was a Christian at the time. I was an MBA. I was not spiritually awake. I was in my mid-30s, and my husband and I were very excited that I was pregnant because there had been years of infertility, and there had also been 2 ectopic pregnancies. And we did have a toddler. So it was just really a big deal to be pregnant again and to have a healthy pregnancy going. I was just 10 weeks along. I'd been to the doctor just the one time, and I was working at home. I was home alone. Didn't have either of our cars. And I just did not feel right that day. I just was so restless. I kept trying to work and focus, but it just having all this abdominal pain and just feeling like reflux or like gas. I just did not feel right in my abdomen. I would not find out why for a while, and it was a really surprising reason why. So I got to the point where I just felt, and I'd never had this experience before, I just felt this sense of impending doom. And it was very specific. So I ran for the bathroom thinking something's really wrong. I'm going to be sick. I don't know what's happening, but something is really, really wrong. When I got into the bathroom, I had this searing pain. I looked down in surprise at my midsection because it literally felt like someone had stuck a knife in me. And all I could think of was, oh no, an organ burst. I'm going down. And I passed out on the floor. And I remember calling out to God for help because I knew I was home alone. So I came to, I'm lying on my side in a fetal position because there just was so much pain. And I came to only because there was this very insistent male voice. And he kept saying, Wendy, Wendy, you've got to wake up. You've got to call for help or you're going to go home now. And I knew exactly what he meant, that I was going to die. So I opened my eyes and I was just shocked beyond belief because my bathroom was just lit up. There was so much light in it. And I could see 4 or 5 large angels. And angels had been theoretical to me before that moment. It just was mind blowing. And my belief system just had to change because angels are absolutely real once you've had a direct experience like that. They're an incredible energy. And there was just so much love coming from them and compassion. And they were so big. So now that I'm awake, he repeats it. And I replied to him, I understand, but I can't walk. So because again, it's 97, so didn't have the, cell phone glued to the hand or in the back pocket like we do now. I had to get to a landline. And his answer, Ben, it was on multiple levels. And I've since learned that is how angels speak. There's just 2 or 3 layers to what they're saying often. And he said, you just have to be willing to try. And I think what he was referring to was free will. I mean, this is a free will planet, and we've got to put in our effort and exert our effort to help ourselves. We're not meant to be victims and just abdicate, do everything for me, help me, fix me, is not the journey that we're here for. So it took everything I had to be able to get up onto my hands and knees at that point. That was all I could do. And again, my mind was blown at that point because it was like being just gently flown and just moved. I somehow moved from where I was in the bathroom, the short distance to the bedroom where there was a telephone on the nightstand. So I reached up for it. Again, I'm a healthy 36-year-old, never crossed my mind to dial 911 because I had never called 911. And the angel didn't say who to call. He just said, call for help. So I chose to call my husband at work because I knew he worked very close to home. And I thought if I can get him on the phone, great. If not, I'm going to have to call someone else. So the assistance and the aid that was so in place for me that day just continued because I got him immediately on the phone. That had never happened before. And I give him a lot of credit because all I said was, I need you to drive me to the hospital now. Can you take me to the hospital now? And all he said was, on my way. And I just heard the phone clunk down. So I had just enough time to call the OBGYN office, tell them what was happening. And they said, okay, that's great. Your husband's going to get you here faster than 911 at this point. So stick with that plan. And when you get here, don't park your car. Just pull up to the entrance and we're going to be waiting for you curbside with a wheelchair because we do not want you walking. So that's exactly what happened. They whisked me upstairs to the OB's office, which was located at the hospital. And the hospital was only 15 minutes away. So again, I think everything's just really working in my favor. And it also, our local community hospital was very much an OB hospital. They were doing about 5,000 births a year. And I worked in healthcare. So I just knew, some of the ramifications of that. That also means you're prepared for a lot of OB emergencies. You've just got the structure in place for it. So I knew I was in great hands. So they whisked me into the ultrasound room in the doctor's office, and the ultrasonographer tries to do the ultrasound. My husband's crammed in this tiny room with me, and I can't see anything on the screen, and it just doesn't make sense to me. I said to her, is your machine on? Your machine working? Because all I see is black. And I'd had ultrasounds before, and it's amazing how much detail you can see with them. And her response was, I'll be right back. I'm going to get the doctor now. So I'm looking at my husband thinking, I don't know what's going on, but this is clearly not good. She returned very quickly with not only a physician, but with a certified nurse midwife. And we're now all just like crammed in this tiny room. And the physician takes over and does the ultrasound, and he realizes what's going on. She probably did too, but wasn't able to say it to me. It needed to be a physician to say it to me. And he said, Wendy, you're losing just a massive amount of blood in your abdomen. Something is clearly burst. And what you're seeing on the screen, that's just all blood. That's what all that black wavy is. That's why we can't see anything else. So we need to admit you to the hospital right now. So someone ran and got a stretcher. Again, so fortunate that I'm right at the hospital. Someone got a stretcher and took me over and admitted me straight into a bed in the medical unit, and it admitted me bedside right from there. And just a lot's going on. There's multiple nurses, the doctor's with me, my husband's with me. There's just a lot going on. One of the nurses asked me, do you know your blood type? Because that was one of the first things they needed to do, is start transfusing me. And I said, of course, I think everyone should know their blood type. It's really important. And so I told her it's A negative. And she goes off to call the Puget Sound Blood Bank, because this was happening in the Seattle area, and it's one central blood bank to not be wasting blood. And nowadays, there's something called an ICE app in case of emergency, and you can just put it in your phone. There's no cost to it, and just put in important things like your blood type. And then if a medic, a car accident, if you've passed out, any kind of scenario, you're going to have your phone, and they don't need to know your passcode. It's just going to pop up for them. They're going to be able to look at, they know how to pull this up. So I think that's important for people to do, to just help ourselves. So the nurse comes back in a few minutes later. She does not look happy. And to our surprise says, I cannot get any A negative blood right now from the blood bank, because evidently there was a major train collision in Seattle a few days ago, and it's temporarily wiped out the A negative blood. So this is a big deal. There's a short discussion of, are we going right to surgery? But we don't know what we're operating on. We don't have blood, etc. So we make the decision, and I was very much a part of it and agreed with it, that we're going to do what's called watch and wait. And I'm going to be very carefully attended, and we're just going to see if by lying prone, can this bleeding stop on its own? Because our bodies are a miracle, and they're just regenerating themselves all the time. And I was kind of going through in my head, I'm like, okay, what are the non-essential organs? What do I hope this was? Appendix, gallbladder, That's not what it turned out to be. So we did watch and wait, and they were able to get blood for me about 6 hours later. So they start hanging the bags. But again, I'm just in so much pain. I'm blowing through the different pain relievers, are just not doing it. I'm on morphine at this point, which I'm really horrified by, because first trimester of pregnancy, one does not want to be having transfusions and morphine, but it's just the situation that I was in. So we did watch and wait for several days, and again, just being transfused. So we're doing transfusion medicine as our approach. There was a brief discussion of, should I be transferred downtown? And I said no, because again, I just knew the particulars of this hospital and how great they were with OB emergency. So I was able to stay in my community hospital. And what happened next was, it reached the point, they were checking my hematocrit among other blood tests and other measures of my health and function every day, multiple times a day. But on the third day, my physician said to me, Wendy, you're officially bleeding out based on your hematocrit, because it's just falling. And you probably know that based on, you can see how much blood we're going through, and we can't transfuse it any faster because you lose it faster than we can transfuse it in. So we need to do surgery. There's just no choice at this point. So I agreed to the surgery. It was going to be the next morning. It was going to be my own OBGYN, which I felt very happy and relieved about. I knew he was a terrific surgeon as well as OB, and I'd had an ectopic surgery pregnancy with him already, as well as my infertility work. So we agreed surgery is going to be the first one in the morning. The next morning, I sign the paperwork and I get my dinner. 4:30. It's a hospital. I'm just trying to relax in my hospital room. I'm by myself at that time. And Ben, I was just trying to visualize the best possible outcome. I was just trying to relax because I was so scared. I was so stressed and in so much pain. So I'm just trying to picture the best possible outcome. The minute I have that thought, I leave my body and I look back at it over my left shoulder, and I'm already feeling so much better, back in pure soul form. And that took me a few minutes to work out and understand, because I'm looking at myself in the hospital bed and I'm kind of critiquing, and my sense of humor has already come back. And it's like, oh, wow, look at her. She's whiter than the sheets. She really is bleeding out. She's whiter than a ghost. And look at that hair. Oh my gosh, couldn't they have at least given her a mirror or a brush? She looks like the wild woman of Borneo. Because of course, the hair's all over the place. And again, I just felt better and better. And then I'm like, wait a minute. And that's when I realized, okay, I'm my higher self. I'm back in pure soul form. And that's my body, my temporary body as Wendy in the hospital bed. But I'm fine. I'm an eternal soul. So this is all coming back to me. That had not been part of my belief system in 1997, but it's just all coming back to me in that moment. So I look one more time at my body because I'm just not very interested. And I'm like, she's fine. So blasé about it. Because what I was really interested in, Ben, was I could see the white light of home. It was coming through the ceiling, and it was just like a triangle. They get it right in the movies. I've seen it depicted in movies. I had not seen any movies about this at that time, but I have since then, and it's just, it's well done in certain films. And I could just feel this magnetic pull from it. And I was so drawn to that white light. I was like, I am following that. So that's exactly what I did. So I leave my body without another thought and just start following the white light. So I burst out of the roof of the hospital and I'm going up and up, higher and higher, faster and faster. And then I just stuttered to a stop. I don't know if you've ever run out of gas, but it's that terrible feeling like, oh no, I don't have enough gas to make it to the gas station or wherever I'm going. And I just stopped. And I was really horrified. And I just called out for help and said, I don't have any more energy. Please don't make me walk through that long tunnel to get home because I won't make it. I need help now. And the minute I said that, this beautiful escalator dropped in front of me. It was pristine, no one else on it. There's so much white light coming from it. And I plopped myself on it so gratefully. And in doing so, I had plopped myself over the right handrail. And that made me realize I was like a flat tire with just like no energy left. So I'm like hanging over it. And I knew I should have been like this bright, bouncy orb, like a beach ball with like this like lightning storm inside of just, all this energy as my higher self. But it's like, thank you for the escalator ride. I really need it. So I get that escalator ride up to the light. And the minute I get up there and go to float off and leave my wonderful ride, everyone is there to greet me. There's about 20 souls. It's my soul family. It's everyone I know and love the best. And they look like I described, like these really exuberant, eternal, marvelous, big orbs, beach balls of white light. And I can see just behind them, I can see the same angels that were in my bathroom. And they look different because they're much bigger. And there's just a different presence to them. So everybody gathers me in this big group hug, and I could have stayed there forever because it was unconditional love. And we don't experience that very often on Earth. Some people have never experienced it at all and have had trouble giving it to themselves. So I think that really was a reminder how important that is, because then we mirror it out and attract it when we're giving it to ourselves as well as to others around us. Everyone's giving me this hug, and I'm just basking in it. And at that point, Archangel Michael speaks. And the minute he spoke, it's like, oh, that's who was talking to me in my bathroom. And he says, welcome home. We're so glad you're here. You made it. You've done nothing wrong. You are welcome to stay. And as I'm getting that hug, I'm like, well, wouldn't I stay? So he at that point like motions for everyone to step back and let go so that I can listen to him better, because I'm just distracted by getting all that love in, because that was clearly what I really needed. So I think NDEs are exactly what we need. I think they can be a mid-course correction and we get what we want. And there's some commonalities to them, but there's some things that are very unique to each individual that has one too. So what Michael said next was, I can tell you 3 things to help you make your decision because you're going to need to decide quickly. And I realized, oh yeah, that body in the bed in the hospital is not viable for very long. It doesn't have a soul. I'm not there. So what he told me was, number 1, you're going to have a successful surgery tomorrow and your baby will be born healthy. This is huge to hear that. I can feel like the weight of the world coming off my shoulders because, of course, I had been very concerned about that, very concerned about the baby as well as about myself, my own health. So, and then he continues, and what he said next was, what I can also tell you is if you choose to go back, life will be very difficult, likely for many years, because you're not on your life path. So I am horrified when he tells me that. I am so chagrined. I feel awful. No one wants to hear they're not doing what they came to do and what they're meant to do. So of course I asked him, well, what am I meant to be doing? What should I be doing? Not be doing? What's my purpose? Tell me more. And he just gently shook his head. So I knew he was not going to tell me anymore. But I thought, well, wait a minute. I've got my whole soul family here with me, group dynamics. I just have to find the chatty Cathy. I just have to find the person who's going to tell me more. So I go around to person after person after person, and I'm getting more and more desperate, like shaking them down. So tell me, what can you tell me? What am I supposed to be doing? What's my purpose? Give me some hints, give me some help here. And no one would tell me anything. So my energy's just plummeting again, because I had been feeling better and leaning toward going back until, that third statement came out of what life was going to be like. But everyone knew that I was just really struggling with this point because I hadn't put 2 and 2 together. I needed to figure it out for myself, bottom line. And so they start being really humorous as they don't answer my questions. So like one person puts like duct tape over their mouth, like with a flourish, and another one like pantomimes, they're like locking their mouth and throwing the key. So I just start laughing. And as my vibration raises again, that's when I realized, okay, I've got the full love and support of everyone. I'm so fortunate to know that and to have this incredible reminder. And they're not meant to tell me. That's just the way it is. So the next thing that happened was Michael asked me, what do you want to do? And the second he asked me that, all I could see was our adorable toddler's face. And she was about 18 months old at the time. She had this curly brown hair, and her face was not normal size, Ben. It was like bigger than an IMAX screen. It's like it just filled my world. And I knew I was going to have a successful surgery. I knew I was going to have a second baby that was going to be born healthy. So it was easy to answer him at that point. And I said, okay, coach, put me back in. I'm ready to play. Meaning I was going to do my best to get on track and live my purpose and to engage with life more fully. So that's exactly what happened. Everyone gives me this big group hug a second time, and they're getting into cheerleader mode. You can do it, and we'll be rooting for you. And the second time they give me that hug, I can feel an energy download. Because again, I had just been bleeding out for days and was just very, very low on life chi, on life force energy at that point. I had felt, flatter than a pancake. So I get this energy download from everyone and just all this love and support. And Michael just puts me back down on the down escalator. And I just wave over my shoulder and everyone, keeps cheering for me. You're so brave. Go get them. You can do it. And I go down the escalator and I just go straight. See, that same light took me right bedside. And I just saw my body and I just gently floated back into my body. And I had two immediate thoughts. The first was, ugh, why is she so little? I'm 5'2", and evidently I was annoyed by that because it just felt like such a squish. It felt so hard to bring my life force energy back into this small human container. But then I just told myself, well, you chose it. You chose the body. It's for good reason. It's just the way it needs to be. And the next thing that hit me was, the pain, because I'm right back into the situation with all that pain. And I just told myself, that's okay. Just have to make it through the night and you're going to have a successful surgery tomorrow. And then you're going to get through the whole pregnancy from 10 weeks to 40 weeks, whatever it's going to be. And you're going to have a healthy baby. So I have the surgery the next morning and they did it through some imaging guidance so they could see. And it was 2 OBGYNs that did the surgery. And I think that was very important because they're doing everything they can to not disturb. And of course, at 10 weeks, the baby's this big. So the doctor told me later, it was just easier. And he mentioned to me specifically, he says, your fetus was tucked all the way down in the lower left area of your uterus. And what we discovered that caused this huge blood loss, and they estimated later that I had lost 3/4 of my blood supply, based on the amount of transfusing that they had to do. So thank you, modern medicine. Because if this had happened 100 years ago, 50 years ago, maybe I would not be sharing this story with you. So what they discovered was what had ruptured. So I was correct. Something had ruptured. When I went down and passed out in the bathroom, it was actually the fundus. And what the fundus is, it's the top of the uterus. And it's an aorta. So that's why there was so much blood loss, because it was just pumping out blood from that area. So they surgically repaired it. And the pregnancy was not disturbed. And I had the good fortune to carry her to full term and birth that healthy baby who's now 28 years old.
Returning home during an NDE.
Home as this timeless, spaceless place. And you just create whatever you want and need. So evidently, I just needed the love and support of my soul family as well as those angels. And it was interesting because even though everyone looks the same at home, of your soul family, and again, it's just that wonderful reminder, all these crazy distinctions and terrible things that have been done to people based on race and culture and ethnicity and gender, they don't make any sense. We're all the same. We're just these beautiful white light souls. And I knew who each person was. And my grandparents were in the front. All 4 grandparents came forward, which was very interesting. I kind of expected my mom's parents because I knew them well and I had actually lived with them for a time period. So that was wonderful to have them there. But it was super cool to see my dad's parents because in this lifetime, they both died before I was born. So, but again, I knew who they were. So it was great. And another thing, and all four had passed on. So that kind of made sense. But front and center was one of my best friends in this lifetime. She is very much alive. And so that made me remember the fact that we've always got an aspect of ourselves at home as our higher self. We don't bring all our energy into any one human body. It wouldn't fit. It's not necessary. So, there she was, welcoming me home. So those were some of the things that I learned and just had reminders because we know these things at the soul level, but we agree to a veil of amnesia before we incarnate for good reasons. It's like you don't want to be so distracted by what's on the other side and, what's at home, heaven, nirvana, whatever your belief system is, Summerlands, whatever the universe, whatever you call it. And also the veil of amnesia, that helps us be just gung-ho and willing to try new things, which might not be new at all. I think we've all had déjà vu and just like, ooh, this feels really familiar, whether it's something we're doing or whether it's a place or a person. And it's because, yes, you've just had encounters in that area before. But if we had this full memory of all our lives, it would be distracting, as I said, and we wouldn't be willing to try new things, the same way.
Integrating NDE.
I did not know, and this is so ironic because there I was living in Seattle and I didn't know who to talk to about this. I tried to have the conversation with my husband a little bit, but he wasn't able to have the conversation because the poor man, it had been so hard on him and he hadn't had the positive aspects I'd had in addition to the trauma. He just, from his perspective, he almost lost his wife and child and had been in the place of, I might be raising an 18-month-old alone. So he just wasn't able to have the conversation. I just wasn't comfortable bringing it up with healthcare providers. And I just didn't find anyone to talk with about it for 20 years. And that's so ironic because I was living in Seattle, and that is where the oldest chapter of IANDS is, the International Association for Near-Death Studies, which is this amazing support group that was started by a gal who was a social worker at Harborview. And she started that group, and then it spread throughout the entire country and actually the world to be able to support near-death experiencers, to be able to support their families, because the integration can be very, very challenging because your whole worldview's been blown open. Nothing is the same. And I've now spoken with hundreds of other near-death experiencers. My integration was easier than many people experienced. But, things did continue to roll out differently in my life because it's different once you're able to hear your spiritual guidance in the way that I can. And once you're able to perceive and speak with angels, ascended masters, your spirit guides, your higher self, God, again, whatever your belief system is, it's just different. So that was what really changed. So after about 20 years, I'd fully integrated it all and I was able to speak about it, and I shared what happened. And it's interesting because the details don't fade away because it's more real than real. And I think of our incarnation on Earth or other places. I believe we have choice of where we incarnate and when. I think of Earth as some people call it a school. We're here for experiences. We're here for adventures. We're here to learn and progress. But what's at home, it is more real than real. So the details, they don't fade and they don't change. So it's just easy to share the story because it's so real. It's just like locked in.
Wendy's spiritual pivots.
So what happened was in 2010, I was divorced at that time. It had been about 6 or 7 years since the divorce, and my daughters were in their early teens. They were about 12 and 14. And I just was at the point where I was ready to meet a nice guy and just didn't have any idea how to do so. So I asked friends who were actively dating, and I said, "Hey, I'm not meeting anyone, through church or work or through friends of friends. How did you meet your new boyfriend, fiance, husband, whatever?" And several of them said to me, "Oh, Wendy, you just need to go on Match.com." And I said, "Match. What?" I didn't know what they were saying. So they explained to me that it was an online dating platform. Again, this was back in 2010. And friends helped me put together a profile and pick out some pictures. And the minute I changed the radius of how far apart I was willing to live from the other person and changed it to 10 miles, this new profile came up. And Ben, I could not look away from the screen. It was like, I know this man. I know this man. I know this man. And it was just this like deep in my heart. It was like this soul recognition. And I read through his profile, which he did a beautiful job of detailed. It wasn't the one-liner. And the last thing he had written in the dating profile of all places was any woman on a spiritual path who is interested in life between an LBL, we need to meet. And he didn't explain what LBL was. So I'm sitting there going, okay, let's not be naive. I better meditate, check with my guides, check what LBL stands for, because I don't want this to be a drug reference. This is a person I'm not going to meet. I don't know what LBL is. So I Googled and immediately found Michael Newton's Journey of Souls. And Dr. Newton wrote 4 books. He was a traditional psychologist and had worked for years not doing any type of past life regression because he just thought it was weird and woo-woo and just, why do that? But there was a breakthrough patient who came to him and he just was having trouble getting them the relief that they need. And, they'd been having session after session and just weren't getting the breakthrough. And he made a comment, something to the effect of, go to the time and place where this originated. Let's get this resolved. And they went back in time and he was able to actually research and find, and there were military records that documented. So that was what put him on the path. And he and his wife was his office manager, she was his nurse, and with patient permission, they then recorded many, many, many of the patient sessions, and then he picked the most interesting stories and wrote it into Journey of Souls. So here it is. This is being introduced to me via a dating profile. So I wrote to, and I'm finding all this information about past life regression and life between lives, which was a type of deep hypnotherapy. And hypnotherapy, it's simply relaxation. You keep your free will. No, this is not Las Vegas. You're not dancing like a chicken. We're not doing this for, who's, a highly prone to going into trance. That's not what this is about. This is the opposite. This is soul level work that's done with the greatest of respect for your journey. And again, you've got your free will. So if there's anything that your past life regressionist asks you to do or suggests to you and you're not comfortable with it, the client can just say, no, I don't want to look at that. I don't want to go there. That's not good for me. That's too scary for me. Or no, I don't need to do that. So, free will is still very much at play. So it's simply relaxation with a lot of guided visualizations and meditation. And you travel and go to the prompt I give to clients is go to the time and place with the most healing and information and uplift for your life today. Because, hey, we want this to be practical. We want this to help our life now. We're not on this, mystery fishing trip that doesn't make any sense. Did I ever used to be a maid to Cleopatra? Yeah, that's not the point of it. So I got introduced to this gentleman, and he's introducing me to Michael Newton's Journey of Souls and past life regression and life between life. And I'm reading about this on the Newton Institute website before I contact my new match. And I write to him and said, I know you from somewhere. Do you have any feeling like that about me? And when you talk about, when you referred to spiritual journey in LBL, are you referring to Life Between Lives and Michael Newton? Because it's fascinating. And I just started the book from the library and I can't wait for it to get here, for Journey of Souls to arrive. So we then, and he wrote back to me right away and said, yes, 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 I want to meet. And I feel like I know you too. So we then tried to coordinate schedules. It took 3 weeks, and that gave me time to read the book. And when he came we agreed to meet for lunch. It was on a weekday. And when he walked into that restaurant, I was sitting on the little bench in the foyer. I got there first, and I looked over and I saw him. I could not move. I thought there was an earthquake. I literally thought there was an earthquake. I was like, wow, everything is changing. Everything is moving in my life. All the puzzle pieces are just reassembling. And now the picture's going to become clear. So he had to help me stand up because I was just like, and he dropped down on one knee in front of me and was like looking right in my eyes and said, I know you. We're going to figure this out. So we, over time, found 21 shared lives together. So that's what soul level recognition can be like. And it can be, you may have experienced it yourself. It can be with a friend. It doesn't have to be romantic. It can be with a friend, a neighbor, a boss, a colleague. And it's like this feeling of, there you are. I've been waiting for you. I can't wait to catch up. And then you catch yourself and you go, wait, we just met 5 seconds ago. But that's, your souls know each other from previous times. So that's what got me all on the path. And the moment I read the first chapter of Journey of Souls, I could hear my guides and angels saying clearly, you need to go for one of these sessions, because the PLR, taking the past life regression, was a prerequisite to having the life between lives. It kind of sets the stage for it. And it helps you practice following, relaxing more and more deeply and following the prompts from your hypnotherapist.
Exploring past lives.
So I did indeed have that first session November of 2011, 11/11, which is, interestingly enough, that's the classic Lightworkers Awake angel code, which I didn't know at the time. And I had a profound first past life regression. And I had no training for this. I was not a great candidate for it. And because I had no spiritual practice, I didn't know how to meditate. I was so uptight, so stressed. MBA, single mother, just hair on fire, not enough time in the day. And the Newton therapist that I went to as we were doing the phone intake interview and deciding whether it's going to have a session with her or not, she said, you sound like you're going to be a hard one. Just let's talk about it and what you want to accomplish. And you just have to be willing to know that, there may not be very much happening. Instead, in those 2 hours, I was so fortunate. I turned out to be an incredible, easy trance subject. And everyone's different. And I went back in time as she gently guided me through this lifetime. So you're kind of going back and you're younger and younger and different things. And I cleaned up and let go of upset and trauma around different things that had happened in this lifetime. And then she had me go to a past life. And it was profound to have that experience. And I actually was able to go to a second one. And then she, had me come back to full consciousness and just, sit up and talk with her. Because back then sessions were all in person before we had wonderful, wonderful Zoom, and or debriefing for the last 15 minutes or so. And when she said, how do you feel? Does anything feel different? And I told her, I said, it's like the weight of the world is off my shoulders. I don't feel the perfectionism anymore. I don't feel so stressed. I don't feel the anxiety that I've had for 49 years. And to let go of that in 2 hours, it was a life changer because I could just live life a lot more joyfully and be willing to try more things, do more things, and just start working through that checklist. We all have things that make us concerned, worried, nervous, whatever. We all have fears, phobias, and I could just start working through them. And as I went through them, one by one by one, it's like, wow, life just gets so much more free and flowy when you no longer have those fears. So that was what got me on the journey. And because that first session with my Newton therapist for passive regression was so profound, I said to her, okay, get out your book, your calendar, your scheduling book, because I want to do a life between lives with you. And I'm hearing it should be a year from now. So that's exactly what happened. I went back and so much happened during that life between lives. And I recorded it and I actually transcribed it because was so much helpful information. I had 65 pages of information to help me in my life today. Is everyone going to get that? No, but clearly I needed it and was fortunate because again, things were just being changed so much from, working in healthcare business development, working as an MBA in industry for all these years. And my guides kept saying, you're meant to do something else. You're meant to help other people with their spiritual awakening. And I'm like, how? And I just couldn't connect the dots. So after those 2 sessions with that Newton therapist in 2011 and 2012, I then had the good fortune to meet a Dolores Cannon trained therapist, and I did 2 sessions with her that were, again, so profound. And then I had one more with her the next year. So I've now had 5 sessions in 3 years. And at that 5th session, the Cannon therapist said to me, Wendy, you need to really listen to your recording because I've not seen or heard anybody do this before. And she said, you're not only totally comfortable and facile speaking as your higher self, speaking as your soul during the session, but you're actually giving me directions and you're telling me, take her deeper, do this. You don't need to look at that. Let that go. And you're like coaching me. And she says, I've never seen that. She said, you've clearly done this yourself, this type of work or this exact work before. And have you considered training to become a past life regressionist, to become a hypnotherapist specifically for this, to be able to help others? And I said, no, I've not thought about that. And when I listened to the recording, I could see exactly what she meant. So at that point, I just opened myself to it and just asked my guides, okay, show me who am I meant to train with? Please make this easy. Please make this affordable, find a way for me to be able to do this. And very quickly, once you just open yourself to the possibility, get out of your own way. Very quickly, I was introduced to a wonderful man over in the UK who had been a hypnotherapist and done past life regression for about 20 years. And he had also trained with Dolores Cannon. And he was looking for some hypnotherapists, some people to train one-on-one to do the same work. And he wanted to do it for about a dozen of them to then create it as an online course for people, etc. So I was one of those people, and it just took off from there. I was still very, very busy because I'm working full time. I've got the 2 kids. My mother lived next door, pets, the house, the yard, just everything really, really busy. So I was only able to see 1 or maybe 2 clients a month in the beginning. But my guides kept saying, get ready, get ready. It's going to change. It's going to get bigger. It's going to get busier. And I knew I was meant to create a website, hang my shingle and start to really, because I was just working with friends and friends of friends, and keeping it, small and close, because that was all the time I had. And I just couldn't see it any bigger than that. And what happened then was I got one of those gifts from the universe that does not feel like a gift at the time. And I got laid off in 2017. the economy was strong at that time. I knew so many people in Seattle. I had every reason to have found another job in industry because that's what I was looking for. But I was working two tracks. And what I was doing was I was also, because I was unemployed, I had the time to create a website, to do the things. And I just started seeing more clients. And I just kind of, said to myself, well, whichever takes off faster, that's what I'm going to do. And the job offer didn't come because I was meant to be doing this full time. So that's what I did and how I got here. And as I said, I also then went and did other training too. I trained as a channel when I realized I had those spiritual gifts and I wanted to do it well. I wanted to be a really clear channel and be able to give the best information I could and not have my ego interfere with it or not have my own filters interfere with it. If I was going to deliver messages meant to help people. And also I trained as a Reiki master.
Current and past life healing.
So many people are carrying vestiges of pain, anxiety, depression that's coming from either past life or past lives, or it's coming from this lifetime. And they can't remember where from or what from, or they do, but they don't know how to let go of it. It's just stuck energy. So being able to clear that out and work with them on each of their chakras and to just do an energy cleaning and clearing for their whole body. We go to a healing temple is the way we do it during this session. I also teach people how to connect with their spirit guides because many people want to do that and they don't know how, or they don't trust the information they've already been getting, and they need validation, and they need more techniques, and they need more confidence in that area to be able to do it. So we get them connected with their guide, and we just do different things during the sessions. It's a series of 3 sessions. The first is 2.5 hours, and then 1 hour and 1 hour, and people can schedule them 1 month apart, as far apart as 1 month. And then we're working together for 3 months in that package. Or people can do a single, I call it a jumpstart session, and we just work on the one issue that would help them the most. Is it something physical, something to do with wealth or career, something to do with relationships, or something else? And we just jump in and really work fast and furious to get that going better for them. People usually have great instincts, and they just, they have questions. So if they're doing the 3 sessions, they're able to write up to 20 questions. This is organized by, anything or requests, anything you'd like to understand more about a health challenge or, to just be better for you. So health, wealth and career, relationships, and then miscellaneous. And we just find, because yes, inner child healing is very powerful, and it's something that just gets kind of naturally incorporated and integrated during this session, and it will come up for people. Some people do know quite specifically that they went through something very, very difficult, and there was childhood abuse or neglect, and they just don't want to go there. And that's absolutely fine, because again, it's that client's higher self and guides are just going to take us where we need to go. And the way we get the answers to their important questions and requests is it's in the 3rd and final session typically. And we go on up to the light. We pass over from the last day in a lifetime, make sure they're very comfortable with it, understand they're an eternal soul and they're just leaving that body. And we thank it and, thank everyone, and just go on up to the light, which is very similar to an NDE, but minus the trauma, the car accident, the OB emergency, whatever. And we go to the place of all knowledge, which some call the Akashic Records. And we have the person's guide waiting there with their book of life, because we've all got this beautiful book of life and it's everything in it. And to have the guide answering the questions, it's really, and to feel that love and support, it's really a big deal for people, because many people feel so lonely, so not supported, so weird, so awkward, fill in the adjective. like people don't understand them, and it just changes things for them. And whatever trauma is ready to be released, reframed, understood. And past lives, they're not the doom and gloom report. We don't just go to gnarly, hard, awful stuff. Often that's a fear for people. And it's why they don't want to do this when they hear about it. They're like, oh, what if I was beheaded? What if I suffered? Or what if I was a terrible person? I kind of hear those two schools of thought. You know what? We've all been those things. It's just the soul has to experience everything, from kind of bystander, participant, active participant, the person doing whatever just to, and then in another lifetime they play another role. That's how we learn and progress. That's how we move toward gratitude. That's how we move toward forgiveness and peace and love and kindness. That's how we master those things, is through those different experiences, and make different choices. So there definitely can be inner child healing that's going on. There also can be other different types. Shadow, I think of simply as the part of us that we least like. Like, I can be a little impatient. That's something I've had to work on in this lifetime, because I can be quick, just very, very quick. And I don't understand why everyone around me doesn't want to be at, hyperspeed with me. It's harder for me to just chill and take it more slowly. I think it's my East Coast me versus I've lived on the West Coast now for 33 years. And forgiveness was one of the main things that I really wanted to work on in this lifetime. So we just figure out what that shadow is, because it just comes up, and it's just the areas where the person doesn't feel confident. They don't love themselves in that area. They don't respect themselves in that area. And we just work and do our best to get that cleaned up and just bring in that compassion and that self-love and self-confidence and self-respect. So a lot of it's that's the solar plexus chakra, because each of the 7 major chakras is responsible for different areas. Like the root chakra at the base of the tailbone spine, that's our health, our wealth, our harmonious relationships, our purpose. Sacral chakra, above it, joy, creativity, sensuality, sexuality. Solar plexus, self. So we just get those things so that they're working a lot better, and then that can really help with the inner child issues and challenges, as well as the shadow self, and just giving that part of you that you least like big old hug. And when you can accept it, it just melts away. It's no longer holding you back. It's no longer making you angry, frustrated, whatever the emotions are that go with it. Why can't I ever do this type of thing? I had a horrific, profound fear of public speaking that former boyfriend helped me through. That was part of our soul contract. And it was so bad when I would I was fine in business, the irony of it, because I did business development, I did sales. That was fine. But when it was to speak about spirituality, block. I mean, I would get laryngitis. I would lose my voice. I would get sick. I would throw up. It's like I could not speak about it publicly, because I was remembering past lives where I had been punished, ostracized, harmed, put to death for speaking my truth in this area. So it doesn't make one fond of public speaking. But he helped me get through that, and he actually booked me on my first podcast and just coached me, and we worked through it together. So that's what, that's the type of thing that you can do with important people in your lives that just support you in the different areas where you're not living your path, you're not living your purpose.
Earth's spiritual awakening.
My perspective is Earth is just purging lower vibrational energies. because Earth is considered the free will experiment planet in the universe, because we have that ability to do what we want here. And there's incredible freedom. So a lot of it has been not pretty. And and then the consequences of that. So Earth herself, I see as a sentient being, aware of herself. And she's been working very, very hard to raise her vibration and frequency. And she has, but it is not a bloodless process. I mean, she has to cool herself off. And, we've got earthquakes, tsunamis. I mean, you cannot mess with Mother Nature and just, some of those processes that have to happen. But she has rebirthed herself on a higher plane and is inviting us to move up with her. So that's how I see that playing out. I know that can sound very theoretical, but that's how I, see that. And I do believe with all my heart, I just know it in my bones, there is going to be peace on earth. And that is probably a very odd statement at this moment in time when there's so much conflict and craziness just going on. But it's like if you have a wound that didn't heal properly, you have to cauterize it. You have to dig it out, debride it, whatever, to get that to properly heal. So I think that's why we've had all this disclosure of, just breakdowns within our governments, our schools, our healthcare systems, our infrastructure. I think that's why that needs to happen. And I think the best thing that we can do is just be very grounded and centered in our bodies, connect with Earth, and then you can choose to connect up with the divine and just be that bridge, that heaven on earth bridge, and just not be overly reactive to anything and everything being reported. I mean, we have an epidemic of individuals with anxiety and depression, and that is the number one recommendation that's often given, and I think it's a good one, to people who are doing some therapy, is turn off the news. Because you can look for information in appropriate, powerful ways, but you do not need to be deluged with this awful, worst of the worst. If it bleeds, it leads, fire murder, type of news reporting that is it's programming. It's news programming. Think about what that word means, programming. And I turned off the news when I was 35 years old. And I'm going to be 65 this summer. So 30 years ago. And it's not for everyone, but it's something to consider. My grandparents would never have wanted to do that. They were 90 minutes of news every night. It just depends on the person, but know your truth. And don't let anybody shame you if you know you're not meant to watch the news, and let that programming just be coming over you because it bothers you, it upsets you. It's just not good. And again, it doesn't mean I don't look for appropriate information, but I do it my way on my terms. We just have to learn how to keep raising our own vibration and frequency in conjunction with Mother Earth, and let go of the things that don't concern us, we don't need to get in the middle of, and know when we are meant to not be indifferent and are meant to, help, step to the plate. You've just got to learn yourself. You've got to learn your integrity, your morality, what is right for you, and not be a sheep. Let's not all follow each other off the cliff. Let's just, be in our own integrity.
This is some great words of wisdom there, Wendy. Before we kind of wrap here, I did want to circle back to one more question out of curiosity. It's just regarding the past lives, going back, and I've done a past life regression myself. I've done ayahuasca. I've
I talk to my psychic every 6 months. And so I have a different reference points. And I guess one thing that I was always curious about hearing people that have been through near-death experiences is like, I think some people like, well, in the, let's say, non-spiritual lens, like we have a linear kind of lifespan. I guess we started millions of years ago, and now we are here in 2026. And then past life, somebody would say, oh, I had a past life in the 1700s, and then I had another one in the 1800s. But my understanding, it doesn't necessarily work that way. And according to, I guess, my spiritual psychic there, she says I had a past life in the future, what I would perceive as a future. So,
Yes,
if you can kind of explain, maybe
I
kind of break down
can.
like what
I
what
can.
is past, like it's not necessarily linear.
It's a fantastic question because time, the way we're using it with past, present, future, that's a human construct. But it's a very good one. It simplifies things for our human brain and psyche and ego to understand it that way. But it's simply a human construct. That's what reality is. But really, what I believe is happening is time is continuous. It's more of a loop than a line, and it's quantum. So everything is happening in the now. And your soul, like everyone's soul, is so brilliant, and you're going to choose where and when to incarnate because your soul wants to work on certain lessons. And we have beautiful things that come up from people that they're building on. So, for instance, anyone who's a writer in this lifetime or wants to be a writer, you will find past lives where you've been a scribe and you've been copying over informations because that physical medium was just going to, crumble and not be anymore. So you've been scribing information. You've had a diary, you've written a newspaper column. You don't usually just burst forth into, okay, I'm going to write full-on books and publish books. It's just, it builds over lifetimes. Or someone who's, a marvelous cook or has plant knowledge or that sort of thing. It's just building. So you're going to choose, okay, I'm going to do this lifetime in this time and place because I can really work on XYZ. There was a movie with Defending Your Life. It's an old movie, but I think it's pretty well done, of looking at like the projector room, and they were reviewing. It was two people who'd passed on, both young and suddenly, and had very different lives, but they're being shown, doing the debrief of what their immediate life had been like. But they're also being shown things like the projector room where your soul gets to choose. So, for instance, I have a wonderful friend who is my spiritual teacher for years, and she very clearly remembers the projector room on the other side before she incarnated into this lifetime, and that she could jump in and practice something and see, okay, if I do it this way, what's the outcome likely going to be? Oh, wow, that didn't work out the way I planned. It didn't help very many people. Okay, so it's like simulations. And she remembers that. And other people during their life between lives, or during any type of these sessions, they might remember being given the choice of different bodies. And I do remember choosing my body, and just, there were reasons why, why I chose the body that I have, as there is for all of us. So I think there's just a lot of, we all have more marvelous backstory than we can, possibly appreciate when we look at our beautiful soul's journey.
The meaning of human existence.
I think the meaning of human existence is for us to grow at the eternal soul level. I think that is what we're here for. Because if we didn't incarnate, and that's our choice, and just chose to stay home, we just don't progress the same way. And Earth, as beautiful as she is, and as amazing a place as it is, it's also called the hard duty station by many, because there is war here. There is famine. There's just atrocities. And so there's the full range of that human condition that we can, experience. many times. I did ask my guides one time, I said, if I'm meant to know, and if I'm not, that's absolutely fine. May I know how many times I've incarnated on Earth? And they said 1,700. It's like, wow, been doing this a lot. And also, other planets and other dimensions, because we have the choice.
Wendy's mission.
To help others with their spiritual awakening and just meet them wherever they're at. I try really hard during sessions as well as conversations with people, just not to have any dogma around it. It's not about what I've experienced or learned. It's about that person. And I just want to use the terms and fit to their belief system. I have no interest in trying to, change someone's belief system, because it's their journey. It's their ride. I mean, that's one of the most important things I had to learn as a parent, was when to take my foot off the gas with my daughters as they became teenagers and became young adults, because they're now 28 and 30. And just, it's their life. It's their choice. So to just love and respect people exactly where they're at and have gratitude for them.
Those are excellent words to leave us off with, Wendy. So if people wanted to know more about you, where can they find you?
Best way to reach me is via my website, which is my full name, wendyrosewilliams.com.
Thanks, Wendy. We'll be sure to add those details in our show notes. So that concludes episode 3. If you found this content intriguing, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. To support our channel, we would greatly appreciate if you can consider subscribing, liking this video, or sharing this video with a friend. We'll end today with a few words inspired by renowned spiritual teacher Eckhart Tolle. Only the truth of who you are, if realized, will set you free. Until next time, be well and be free. This is the Spiritual Code Podcast.